Today we're going to talk about characterization. Ultimately, we want to be able to draw conclusions and make inferences about a person, which means justifying their character traits through evidence and either direct or indirect characterization, which is a fancy way of saying, how can you tell what kind of person someone is? You don't want to base it just on one thing. You don't want to base it just on what someone says about them or what they look like or what they say. But ultimately, you would have all these different pieces of evidence to make a judgment about a person. So we can also do this with non-persons, so that will come up later too. Before you go further, please make sure you have a copy of the notes so you can write on this, or you should be writing on your own paper, but I would suggest get some notes. Then we'll talk about some videos. So first of all, there are two types of characterization. The big question would be, how would a story change if the characterization technique changed? So, for instance, you have direct characterization, which is when a narrator or character states an opinion of another character. They just say it. They just say somebody is mean, or somebody is sneaky, or somebody is happy, or somebody is kind. When someone just says an opinion of another character, that's direct characterization. They're just directly telling you what kind of person someone is. Have you ever encountered a situation where someone just told you what kind of person someone is, maybe before you even met them? Another type of characterization is indirect. And this is a little more what you actually should be up to at this point. It's when a reader gets an idea based on what kind of person someone is, based on evidence. So no one's telling you someone is sad, but you get this idea someone's sad based on their appearance, based on their actions, based on their words. If it's written in a certain point of view, you might also know their thoughts, which is nice. So think about, how would a story change if the characterization technique changed? These direct characterizations are a little more elementary. It's a little more like little kid stories. Indirect is more what we would read, and this is a little higher level, so you're making inferences instead of just like knowing what kind of person someone is based on an opinion. So let's look at two examples. First example is, Clara wagged her tail, barked, and ran toward me as I walked in the door. By the way, this is Clara. Clara was a happy dog. First of all, on your paper, label which one is direct and which one is indirect. Which one is the author directly telling you someone's feelings, and which one is you indirectly kind of getting someone's attitude or feelings. So hopefully you figured out that this one down here is direct. Clara was happy. That's just a direct opinion. This one is evidence of happy, and if you really think about it, if we take out this one detail, this could take a whole different spin. Clara barked and ran toward me as I walked in the door could mean something not so great. So the only difference is you have to do a little inferencing instead of just believing what someone tells you. So we are going to talk about two other kind of concepts right here. I would encourage you to maybe pause right now and type in this URL into the next tab on your screen. If what I'm getting ready to tell you is a little confusing, I would watch this right here. So whether it's direct or indirect, every character is either flat or round, or static and dynamic. So a flat character just means kind of simple, lack of complexity, lack of depth, somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of different personality traits. A flat character is fairly simple. A round character would be kind of complicated. So they might have many different types of traits. You might know more about the character. This doesn't have anything to do with being a major character or a minor character. This is simply your personality. Are you kind of simple and not really complicated, or are you a little more complicated, a little more diverse? So every character is either flat or round. And every character is also either static or dynamic. They're kind of opposites. If you think about static like on a TV screen, which I know is kind of old for y'all, it doesn't really do anything. You're just kind of watching nothing. So static means something does not change. Someone's personality does not change as static. So everybody's going to change. Everybody's going to grow. Everybody's going to get older. This is really your personality. Can you think of a situation where at the beginning of a story somebody was maybe a villain and at the end was still a villain, and that would be a static character? Dynamic, as it's an opposite, kind of means the personality will change. So maybe a villain becomes a good guy. Or, on the flip side of that, a good guy becomes a villain. Can you think of an example of a story or a movie or something where someone was one way at the beginning and ended up another way at the end? So here's kind of what we're going to look at as far as personality traits. If you've ever heard the term AWOL, it's a military term, means absent without leave. I was just trying to come up with an acronym for all of these, so I came with AWOL. Use it or don't, but here's kind of what you want to look for. You want to look at people's actions. How someone actually acts is a huge indicator of what kind of person he or she is. Absolutely look at actions. We also want to look at people's words, what they actually say, and maybe how he or she says it. If it's a certain accent or certain dialect, think back to the monkey's paw. When the people were speaking a certain way, you could kind of tell they were British. The third one is opinions of others, and this is the only one that's direct characterization. So if you see opinions from other people, either the narrator or another character, that's direct characterization. What do you think the L stands for? We're looking at actions and words and opinions of other people. And it's fair to look at looks. Think about how someone's dressed for a job interview versus out running versus painting their house. Appearance could play a part in someone's character. And if you know it, which you may not always know it, either it's first person or omniscient point of view, you might know the thoughts of the character. So all these taken together would tell you a pretty good idea what kind of person someone is. So we're going to pause right here and watch a little video. Hold.
What are you doing? Come here.
Watch it one more time.
What are you doing? Come here.
So the whole time you're watching this, I know it's like 5 seconds, I want you to think about what kind of person is this. And I'm saying person like dog. If we were going to characterize Clara, the dog, what kind of personality does she have? So look at everything you can find.
This is what we do. Silly girl, come here.
One more time.
This is what we do. Silly girl, come here.
Okay, so now that you have watched the Clara videos, we're going to make a little bubble map. This should already be on your notes. Bubble maps are used to describe, so we're going to describe Clara. This happens to be my dog. And all I want you to think about is evidence from the very brief text that you just looked at. And we're going to make a judgment based on our evidence. So all you know are basically like 15 seconds worth of personality information. We're going to make a judgment. First thing is we are not going to know her thoughts. So you can cross that out because it's not a first person or omniscient point of view. What we want to look at are her actions. So you might have noticed the pattern. She was rolling on her back in both videos. She also came when she was called within like seconds, and she was wagging her tail. So she's rolling on her back, she comes when she's called, she's wagging her tail. What could we infer about her based on just her actions? And we might say she's playful. She wasn't like growling or, I don't know, biting anybody. The other thing is we want to look at her appearance. So maybe you notice she's kind of a big girl, but she's kind of got like chunky rolls on her neck. She has to wear a harness because she's big. She's had some puppies probably at some point when I adopted her. She had many, many, many litters of puppies. She's big. She's a hound. She's black and brown with white fur. These aren't really all that important, except that overall, you're not going to see this dog and think like, oh gosh, she's starving. You're going to say maybe she's well fed. So we're looking at adjectives in all of these little bubbles here. The other thing is the only opinions we have are based on the narrator. In the video, the narrator said, silly girl, and that gives you kind of a indicator of what kind of dog she is. She wasn't like, bad, no, no. It was just laughing. So the narrator's laughing and saying silly girl, so you might determine that the dog's kind of funny. And really this is all the judgment we have. So we're looking at this and we're saying she's well fed, she's playful, she's kind of silly or funny. And these all seem to go together. There's nothing terrible here. It wasn't playful and then violent. They all seem kind of to go together. So you might say she's overall fairly flat. There's not a lot of complexity to the dog in this video. You might also say she's a static. That should have a T right there. A static character because she doesn't really change. She does the same thing from day to day. Those videos were taken several days apart. So here's the next step. And the next step is you're going to create a thinking map, a bubble map about yourself on the first day of school. Yourself on the first day of school. So your name goes here. We could know your thoughts because it's you. If you remember specifically saying anything or what you were wearing that day or how you looked, and if you don't remember, that's totally fine. Make it up. We want to think about a person on the first day of school. Here's the big deal. The actual bubble should have a judgment, and to the side you should have pieces of evidence that prove that judgment. So if your words were, maybe you didn't talk a lot that day, or you just said hello, or you said yes ma'am, or you said here, let me help you, then maybe it's polite. Your thoughts may have been terrible, horrible things, and then that would mean the two of these together don't quite go, so maybe you're more round than flat. But maybe they all go together. So just kind of work with it and try it and come up with evidence and then make a judgment and show your teacher. And then we will take this to something that we read. So I want to make sure you can do it with something non-text-based first.